I'm waiting until it tells me we're on, and it looks like we're on. It says, "You're live now." And at my age, that's a comfort to know. But anyway, today is November 15th. Exactly 46 years ago uh, tonight, I was initiated into the Ordo Templi Orientis. There wasn't much of an Ordo Templi Orientis to be initiated into at the time. It was just a few people, and those people were contemporaries of Crowley, surviving members of the old Agape Lodge of Los Angeles, uh, Grady McMurtry, and Phyllis Seckler. Just two people, old ninth degrees from the old days. There wasn't a Grand Lodge. There wasn't electoral college or any governing bodies. There wasn't even too many living members by then. Uh, it was a very personal, private uh, event, and it was going to take place in the backyard of their home. They were married at the time, at the backyard of their home in Dublin, California, but it rained that night. So Phyllis uh, arranged all day as I was in her library drooling on all those books. Uh, she fabricated a beautiful, beautiful temple, initiatory temple, in her garage. And that's where I took my Minerval degree that evening. And afterwards, Phyllis cooked a marvelous dinner, sort of an Indian themed dinner, which seemed pretty cool because Grady was in a turban and a orientally attired. And part of the dinner was chutney that the recipe was given to her by Jane Wolfe, her magical mentor from Jane Wolfe, who had lived with Crowley at the Abbey of Thelema in Sicily in the 1920s. Anyway, uh, Phyllis cooked dinner afterwards. Well, Grady regaled me with stories of Crowley and meeting Crowley and his relationship with Crowley, uh, especially during World War II in England. But anyway, I have very many memories, and it's especially because I'm living up here, not too terribly far from where that all took place. Uh, anyway, I don't need to regale us with that story. I write about it quite a bit in my Life of the Spirits, or I write about it a little bit anyway. But right now, we're on the Emerald Tablet of Hermes and the invocation of the Holy Guardian Angel. And we've got to that line in the Emerald Tablet that says, "Separate that spiritus earth from the dense or crude earth by means of a gentle heat with much attention." At this point, the aspirant might well ask, if my holy guardian angel needs me so much, why doesn't it just swoop down, pick me up, and drag me off to some heavenly fertility rite? The reason is simple. Your HGA is stuck in place because you are hoarding the stash of spiritus earth. You and you alone can extract a usable portion of this precious commodity from yourself and get it to your angel. To do this, you must process yourself as though you were the primary ingredient in a chemistry experiment, and separate the subtle spiritus earth from your dense and crude earth. When the subtle fire of the spiritus earth is released, it ascends and burns through the membrane separating the microcosm and the macrocosm, igniting your angel into action. Now, I won't argue that this sounds like the plot of a cheap science fiction novel, and for good reason. It is indeed the underlying truth of the mythological scaffolding of Western civilization, from the fall of man to the Star Wars trilogy. One cannot achieve knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel by blindly following the procedures outlined in a book. But you can go ahead and buy a few books, please. As detailed as Abramelin's instructions are, they provide us only with an elaborate formula of invocation. In more modern times, Aleister Crowley distilled and fine-tuned the Abramelin formula in his masterwork, Liber Samach. While I certainly do not wish to downplay the importance of these classic texts, I must voice my belief that most successful invocations of the HGA are executed by individuals who have not performed either of the above rituals. Indeed, I would even go so far as to wager that most cave seers, knowledge and conversationers, have never heard the word Hermeticism, nor would they consider themselves aspirants, initiates, or magicians. Why is the success rate so high among these non-professional mystics? Is the macrocosm prejudice against those of us who would study the spiritual roadmap before starting the trip? In a way, yes. Not because we're too rational or analytical, but because all too often we simply aren't romantic enough. The 6th verse of the Emerald Tablet, that's the one I just read, tells us the spiritus earth is separated from the dense or crude earth by means of a gentle heat with much attention. This gentle heat is love. And as anyone who has ever been in love will tell you, in matters of the heart, the mind often just gets in the way. It doesn't take a scholar to fall desperately in love. To generate the heat necessary to separate the spiritus earth from the dense earth, the primary skill you need to possess is the ability to be agonizingly lovesick for the angel. With the pure intensity of an adolescent who obsessively fantasizes a romantic encounter with a movie star or rock idol, you must physically, emotionally, and spiritually yearn for your angel's touch. Every act of life must become an act of devotion to your beloved. You groom yourself to be attractive to your angel. You sleep so that you may dream of your angel. You surround yourself with tokens and symbols reminiscent of your angel. The Hindus call this aspect of the holy science Bhakti Yoga, union with God by means of devotion. and consider it to be the fastest, most direct route to enlightenment. The flame of devotion can be enkindled toward any object of worship. It doesn't matter if the beloved is called Krishna, or Shiva, or Christ, or Fred. If devotion is offered with perfect one-pointed ardor, with great attention, union can be achieved. No religion, philosophy, cult, fraternity, or school of thought has yet cornered the market on falling hopelessly in love. The human life cycle presents us with a frustrating challenge. In our youth, before the advent of responsibilities, regrets, painful memories, and spiritual cynicism, we find it quite easy to achieve this one-pointed devotion. But the roaring hormonal flame of our youthful devotion is far from a gentle heat required for this delicate operation. Also, the juvenile attention span is so short, we don't give great attention to anything for any significant length of time. Hopefully, as mature adults, we've become disciplined enough to have conquered the great attention part of the equation. But for many of us, the winds of the cold, cruel world have extinguished all but the pilot light of our devotional hearth. Keeping this in mind, some of the more curious aspects of Abramelin's instructions now make more sense. The magician should be over 25 years of age, but less than 50. He must, this is Abramelin talking, remember this is not part of my digressions here. The magician should be over 25 years of age, but less than 50. He or she must be sufficiently set in life to afford to retire from the mundane world for 6 consecutive months. Actually, it's more than that, as we later found out in a better translation of the text. Okay. While I'm digressing, I refer you to the book of Abramelin, the new edition that came out in the last 10 years or so, the book of Abramelin. And at the time when Abramelin was writing this, it didn't even occur to him, obviously, that a magician could be female. So he constantly refers to the magician as he. So, okay. He must be sufficiently set in life to afford to retire from the mundane world for 6 consecutive months, in which time he is to have only minimum contact with the outside world. If he be married, he can continue with the moderate exercise of his husbandly duties. But whether married or single, everything must be done to withdraw from the world of matter. Strict rules of diet and a regimen of daily devotional observances are recommended, not as magical oblations, but simply to focus the mind toward the object of the operation. After 2 months, the daily routine of prayers, confessions, and devotions is intensified to help further magnify the magician's longing for the angel. For the last 2 months, the activities are yet again intensified. The magician becomes totally obsessed with desire for the angel and is perpetually inflamed with prayer. At the end of 6 months, at the climax of an elaborately prepared ceremony, the magician is at last received by the angel. Now, Abraham the Jew's reverent description of this moment is reminiscent of the ecstatic writings of St. Teresa or Solomon's Song of Songs, and leaves the reader with no doubt as to the authenticity of the experience. The next verse says, in great measure it ascends from the earth up to heaven and descends again, newborn, on the earth, and the superior and the inferior are increased in power. The seventh verse describes the process we've just discussed. The subtle fire of the spiritus earth is released by the aspirant's fervor. It ascends from the microcosmic plane of Malkuth and vivifies the holy guardian angel in Tiferet, or number 6, who then descends to unite and transform the magician. The magician and the angel are metamorphosed, and actually they become a single new entity. I'm going to repeat that. The magician and the angel are metamorphosed. In actuality, they become a single new entity. The magician is HGAized by the angel, and the angel is youized by you. Okay. Abramelin instructs the newly HGAized magician to intimately commune with the angel for a period of 3 days, after which, under the angel's guidance, the 4 great princes of evil, Lucifer, Leviathan, Satan, Belial, are to be summoned, and an oath of unquestioning obedience is demanded of them. On the following day, the magician is to summon the 8 sub-princes, Ashtaroth, Magot, Asmodee, Beelzebub, Orions, Pagman, Araton, and Amiamon, and extract from them the same pledge of service. The next day, the evil spirits under the command of the 8 sub-princes are conjured and subdued, and so on, until all the minions of hell have appeared before the angel-glorified magician and surrendered any inclination of sovereignty they may have imagined they had over his person. Isn't it curious that after 6 months of rigorous labor to make oneself holy enough to spiritually unite with the holy guardian angel, the first thing your celestial mentor requires you to do is deal with the denizens of the infernal regions? Why is the very first act after successfully taking the first major step toward Godhead the conjuration of evil spirits? A clue may be found in the second half of the verse 7 of the Emerald Tablet of Hermes. The magician does not operate in a vacuum. Knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel is literally an event of cosmic proportions. All levels of consciousness and existence are enriched by the balance the magician has reestablished in his or her quadrant of the universe. I'll digress for just a moment and put it this way. Achieving knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel rings a bell that the entire universe, existence itself, it rings a bell that existence itself hears. However, it is not only the heavenly angels who rejoice at the return of the prodigal son. The superior and the inferior are increased in power. The spirits of the infernal abodes also feel an injection of new power on this hallowed occasion. And if the magician doesn't act fast to harness this new energy, it will overtake and destroy him or her the instant the afterglow of the angel's presence begins to wane. It's not my intention to embark in this place upon a lengthy oration upon the character or even the relative existence of infernal spirits. Let's simply advance what momentum remains in this little essay and view them as inhabitants of the lowest sublevels of the microcosm, disorganized and fragmented pieces of energy which, when properly directed, are responsible for doing all the heavy work in the universe. However, like circus tigers, they have the nasty habit of tearing apart and eating anyone whose skill, courage, and concentration are not up to the task of caring for them properly. So let's look at this aspect of Abramelin operation in corporate terms. You are a talented shop foreman, the magician, who has succeeded in recruiting and training a band of wild and undisciplined workers from the worst part of town, infernal spirits. Under your strict guidance, this roughneck crew succeeds in boosting the factory's production to such high levels that your good work is brought to the attention of the company president, God, who introduces you to his beautiful daughter, holy guardian angel, with whom you fall head over heels in love. Soon your tenacity and charm and unique ability to lick your own eyebrows wins the heart of the boss's daughter, and she marries you and has you promoted to an upper middle management position. Meanwhile, back in the shop, your old crew of workers are leaderless and restless. The lunch truck has stopped coming by, and they sit around all day and night with nothing to do but abuse the heavy machinery and think about how you let them down. Abramelin, in his wisdom, saw this scenario coming. His instructions are explicit. Instead of ignoring the infernal spirits, your new bride and you go back to the shop the minute the honeymoon is over. You introduce her and explain she's the boss's daughter and that you're now working directly for both of you in a new and more responsible capacity. Adding that if they remain loyal to you, you will continue to promote them, even as you are promoted. And that's where we'll leave it for today. Tomorrow we will continue. Perhaps we may even finish tomorrow. The next verse for tomorrow will be, "Thou shalt by this means possess the glory of the whole world, and therefore all obscurity shall flee away from thee." Anyway, that's where we'll stop today. I don't know what besides. Anyway, I've got a interview of some kind to do here in a few minutes, and I will continue to observe this curious anniversary. Anyway, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love's the law, love under will.